How's it going, guys?
Greetings.
Going well. How about you?
Ed? Jonathan, I like your shirt. John, I should say. It's going to get confusing. We have Jonathan and John. I like your t-shirt.
It's my Wizardly Tees cat shirt. I absolutely love it.
Repping the
little
merch.
little bit of a plug, little bit of
It's no problem at all.
Plugs, there's shameful and shameless plugs, and that was a very organic, shameless plug. I think for the first time in one of our podcasts, I'm actually not wearing one of their shirts. It's always hard to figure out
I
what to wear
was
for these things.
I was panicking. It's like I need a lot shirt
I
or I
know.
need a Wizardly Tees. I'm going through all my drawers. I know I got one in here somewhere.
I know. Just like keep
Yeah.
rotating them. We do that when we sit on the table too. It's like, all right, Jonathan, what shirt are you wearing? Do you have the gray with the blue lot logo, or are you doing the black with all of our
Mm,
names for the campaign? First world problems here.
Sweet
yeah.
baby cheeses tonight.
That I like that one. You have to
I
support
love
you,
it.
you have to support your friends' businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
That app's out,
Yeah.
right, Jonathan?
Mm.
I believe so.
What is it? NTS? Is it on the shirt? It's on the license plate, I think.
It says NYCPR.
So all the tech people search for it in wherever you get your apps. It is a game with a mouse in New York
Oh,
City.
you want the game?
Yeah, you might.
Oh,
I mean, you
I'm
might as
I'm
well
sorry.
if we're
I
plugging
thought you meant the
we did like Wizardly
his
Teas, sweet baby cheeses. I also like it because my character in our campaign, Philomena, she has a little pocket, a mouse, Rumford, and she always has cheese, so it's kind of perfect. I have a navy one like that.
Yeah, so let me represent then for my boy Charlie. If you have an Apple device, you can go get his game. It is NYCPR, New York City Pizza Rat. It is an awesome just like game to play when you have some downtime. So
John,
go
are you
get it.
putting it on your phone right now? Yeah,
Yep.
I have
Yeah.
Android. I can't do it yet.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, you have Android?
No, no, it's
Oh,
just an iPhone. Yeah.
got excited for a
Yeah.
second.
Well, yeah.
I know. All right. Well, let's give an official introduction to our podcast that we're all chatting here for, the purpose of us being here today. So, welcome everyone to another episode of the Legends of the Tabletop podcast. This is another episode of the Parking Lot. My name is Sarah. Today I am joined by Jonathan and by Jonathan, who I will from this point forward call John and Jonathan, just so there's some delineation between the two of you. And John is a behind the scenes guy here in Legends of the Tabletop. He does a lot. Both him and Jonathan have been working tirelessly on writing and creating the Novamir anthology that all of you can visit and check out on our YouTube channel. John has also DM'd for our brew crawls that we've done quite a few times here in upstate New York at various breweries. He's done an amazing job on that. And he has also been a character on one of our Novamir one-shots that you can watch on our YouTube channel as Vorin. We had Volin and Vorwin, lots of V names, but you were Vorin. He was an awesome character. So, Jonathan, thank you so much. You've also been on another episode of our podcast, so we're happy to have you back. So, welcome.
Yeah, I love it. Well, glad to be back with everybody again.
It's nice to see you. We see you like a few times a year when we go to PAX, and it's nice to see your
I
face and not
know,
just hear
that's
your
it.
voice.
Yeah, so really got to move up there.
I
Finally.
know, I know. We'll get you here one day. But for now, we have you on a podcast, and we're really excited because today we're going to be talking about some homebrew and D&D rules. So I'm going to start off by asking you guys a question. How do you feel about homebrewing in Dungeons and Dragons?
Gotta go first, John or me.
Jonathan,
I'm gonna break it by saying this. We
Okay.
have a completely homebrewed campaign,
we do.
so
Yeah.
we must love homebrew.
Mm,
If our DM Alex is watching this and you say otherwise, you're all in big trouble.
Yeah, we're homebrewing a lot,
And
so
you're homebrewing Novamir.
mm,
yeah.
mm. I have to say that I think D&D is already a set of rules and instructions you already have, and it's not rigid. It never has been. And I think that home brewing, especially if they make it the play more smooth or it lends to the flavor of the world you're in, I think it's absolutely necessary. And I don't see really, like most campaigns I've ever seen, I don't think I've seen anything that hasn't had one or two homebrew rules in it, because there's something that's going to come up where it just works better with a homebrew than going by rules as written.
Yeah, I 1000% agree with that. Um, Offline, Sarah and I were talking about stuff, and I said, like, you homebrew so many things in life, especially in games.
Mm.
Um, you know, when you go outside and you shoot hoops with your friends and you're playing basketball, you are not playing the NBA rules. You throw a
Yeah.
football around, you're not playing NFL rules. You guys sit down at a table and play Monopoly, and people homebrew Monopoly. So, like,
Yep.
we
For
homebrew
cheating purposes.
everything. Absolutely,
Yeah.
right? We're making the game more interesting for us.
Mm.
So when we look at D&D, I think there are, and I have no problem with the people that play rules as written. If that's what you enjoy and that's, what really brings you satisfaction in the game, then do that. Be very happy, be very proud of playing that style. But for a lot of people, like John said, every once in a while there is going to be a rule that you kind of tweak just so that it plays smoother or you have more enjoyment.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, I'm probably the newest member or the newest least experienced, I should say, person on our table for playing D&D. I haven't been playing it for as long as a lot of the people on our table. And to be honest, when I first started playing in the very first campaign I was in, I had no idea that there were homebrew rules versus what was in the book. But now that I know, I totally agree that it adds to that world, the theater of the mind, using your imagination, just really being able to allow the DM and the individuals sitting at the table to really add some depth, maybe to their character or to their story by whatever they're doing in combat, or maybe it's casting spells. Like it adds to a really rich depth, I think, to the overall game when you're able to homebrew rules.
I think one thing too is with the homebrew, there's two ways you can go with it. It can go where some DMs get almost overbearing with them, with a lot of things that are just completely unnecessary, or just add on a bunch of stuff. It's like then it ceases to be fun at that point. And then you also can kind of go a little overboard with the rule of cool. The idea of well, we'll do it just because it's fun. Okay, but there is an actual rule for it that might actually just at least adhere to some realism, even though it is a make-believe game. Uh, I think that's another one of those balancing acts as DMs you have to go through constantly as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've had DMs that, overplay that homebrew idea and they start creating things that, you are looking in your book and you're saying, page 175, paragraph 4, section 3 says, I can do this. And then it gets tricky because, we are creating characters based on rules and rule sets. So I think, when we get into that idea of homebrewing, it has to be like a conversation had prior to the game starting. And I know, like, we won't always remember all of the homebrew rules that we will actually implement throughout the campaign. But you should be a person that says, hey, you know what? I do use some homebrew rules. And in situationally, we can talk about what that looks like so that the table is comfortable with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
I think, Jonathan, to your point, having conversations off the table with your players about homebrew rules, I think is something really generous for a dungeon master or GM to do. I mean, both of you have DM'd, I haven't, so let me know what you think. But as far as, going again back to creating your character And if there's something that maybe the individual wants to do for their character that might not be a rule in the actual book that we have for playing D&D, that could be something that the DM or GM talks to their player about and says, "Okay, you know what? I like where you're going with this. Let's work with this and I can homebrew something in our next session that allows you to have this liberty to do this with your character." And I think that could be something that's, makes the game more enjoyable for your players, which is always a benefit because you want everyone on the table to be engaged, to be enjoying what they're doing and building and creating their character.
Yeah. I also think like there should be a little bit of flexibility, especially like maybe in the situation you're in, would something thematically or like some action in that point, okay, yeah, it's not quite in the rules, but it would make an awesome beat in the story right now, or it would make your character feel extra heroic if the DM's like, yeah, go ahead, you did that. I think that's another thing that we should have, that little bit of flexibility. We hear horror stories like that one with the DM with the 44 rules that is like rigid on his table, and it became like a big thing on Reddit where people were spreading it around. It's like that kind of like I said, it's that balance again. It's that not super rigid mindset, but also at the same time giving some players a little bit of that breathing room to do the role play, to have the fun, to do the thing, to be the hero, to have that power trip, which is the reason you're playing in the first place.
Yeah, to give your players some confidence too when they're doing things on the table and feel good about what they're
Hmm.
doing and their character.
Hmm.
A question for you is homebrewing a campaign versus homebrewing rules, because those are two completely different
Yeah.
monsters, right? Like
Hmm.
we homebrew campaigns because we use our own world and we use our own settings, but homebrewing a rule in the game is a different feel. So I can see where people could very easily make up their own world, have people play in it, and still play rules as written, because those things will all still line up versus just playing and changing the rules of the game.
Well, like we actually had a discussion one day. We were talking about resurrection spell,
Revivify.
or was it revivify? Yeah,
The
wrong word in my head. Sorry, but and you need diamonds. And we were talking about what if you're on your table, your particular word, diamonds don't exist, or diamonds are hoarded by a kingdom so that it's extremely difficult to get them. So then it would limit that specific action in the game if you want to like take it out. And I like if it's an in-game logical reasoning, I'm all for it. But if it's just so that the DM doesn't want to deal with somebody bringing somebody back, of course that's a DM thing. That's not a rules thing. But the point being is that
Hmm.
it's still rules as written, but you could have your home rule world could have a way of still working, but not quite, because this little tweak of how things work.
When both of you have DM'd before, do you think it's easier for someone who is a newbie DMing just to stick to the book as is written and use every single rule? Or as a newbie DM, do you think it might be easier to kind of like homebrew some things so you're not having to remember and having to interact with all your players and having to maybe be an NPC?
I think it's absolutely
Really?
easier to homebrew. I mean,
Yeah.
and well, with the thought process of not needing to know the exact rule, I think then it's easier because you could say um, revivify. Let's just use that example. If I don't know that you need 300 gold or 300 gold, a diamond worth 300 gold, I think that's the actual rule, then I don't need to know that my player A has the gold or B has traded the gold in for a diamond. They can say, I cast Revivify, and you're like, oh, cool, that's awesome. You brought your person back from the dead, and everything works out perfectly. but there are DMs that will say, well, did you
Hmm.
get the diamond prior to this situation? And that slows down the game, makes it a little chunkier. Did we do that thing? So if you're a newbie, I would say it's easier. And I don't want to act like because you're fudging the game or like cheating the game, because you're not doing that. Like if you are consistent with your homebrew rules, then that's just your homebrew rules. I think it is a little bit easier though to give leniency. You just have to be
And
consistent
I
with it.
mean, the first time I played D&D, I had no idea that there were rules outside of the player's handbook, that there was anything homebrewed. So as a player, if you're new, you don't know either. But if it makes it more enjoyable and it draws me into the game and I want to come back and play another session, I think that's what everyone wants, right? Like you want your players to show up and to be excited to play and excited to develop their character and work with the DM maybe behind the scenes to do special things for their character. Jonathan, I know you've done that a few times in the Novamir anthologies and the one shots that we've done. You've worked with other characters so that they have something really cool and special to bring to the table for the next game that no one else knows about. It's not a rule, it's something that you created as a homebrew rule, but it made it so exciting and way more enjoyable for everyone to play that particular session.
Like that's a good point because when we had our one shot, technically my character could not use a halberd because he was considered small. But you made the exception for that since the way his character worked, it
Yeah.
fit. So I mean, stuff like that I think is great because again, that leads to that, what you're doing. You're playing the game, having fun. Saying, "Oh, well, I'm sorry, you can't make that character or that story because he can't carry that. I'm sorry, that's just how it works. Those are the rules. So no, 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 you're gonna have to do something different." But saying yes to it just opens up the world of possibilities. And in the end, something that little of a rule, who cares?
Yeah.
It's just holding a
Yeah. And
weapon.
as a player sitting on the table with John when you were playing Vorin, Um, just the juxtaposition, your height as your character, and then that halberd, and then just you
Hmm.
describing everything for everyone, for myself, I'm just going to speak for everyone, but like picturing that in your head as your character was just so amazing. So to be able to do something like that with your character is fantastic for everyone also sitting at the table because it is really, I mean, we have our terrain and we have our minis, but it's really that theater of the mind and letting your imagination
Yeah.
see these images.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I understand the rule, right? The rule is put
Mm.
there so that like I can't walk around with a giant's axe
Yeah.
and, deal on a average hit 4d6 damage, with like a certain weapon that like is totally gonna break
Yeah.
the game. But
Mm.
when we looked at that one specific instance, it was like, well, you want a regular weapon. You just happen to be tiny. Like
Mm.
I love it. And like if he was a pixie and he was like, I want to wield a
That,
sword.
yeah.
Hey man, that would have been cool. Like if you
Yeah.
just see a sword flying through and a little guy attached to it,
Might think it's a mage
it
hand.
made it made exactly it made
Enchanted sword.
yeah,
I
John's decision to go that way
uh,
made the game more fun, and not just for him. I think like you said, Sarah, everyone enjoyed that visualization.
especially when he
Yeah.
grows, it's another 5 or 6
Yeah.
feet.
He
I
raged out.
Yeah. I think that for like a new DM, I think it's nice to have the security of those rules already there and ready to go for you. So, and just like anything you're learning brand new, having something already there set in stone for you is that springboard that lets you say, okay, here's how the rules work. And then when you start playing, you realize, I think this would be a little better, or yeah, I can see why we'd want to tweak this to make the game flow different. But having those rules to begin with, I think really help you And in the homebrew, it's just like adding on all that extra sauce and spice and flavor to how you're playing.
I'll say one thing is I do not let the movement rule. I'm pretty hard on the
Mm.
movement rule. Like if your character can only go 25 feet, your character can only go 25 feet. And if you're 30 feet away, that's you should have picked a taller dude. So I mean, yeah, there's things that like I'll be very strict about, and then there's things that I'm like,
Do you?
It's funny that you say that because I saw a video once where they were talking about how the person had like that same thing. They had like 25 feet, but to help the person, they had to go 30 feet. And they were like, go ahead. I'll just fudge the 5 feet. And that'd be interesting how you would have been. How you've been like, I'm sorry, you can't reach them. They're dead.
dead.
And that's why you have Revivify.
Yeah, you go.
I would
He would
allow
allow you to find a diamond somewhere, Jonathan.
Yeah.
on your next turn.
But it has to be within so many feet.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wow. I think too that sometimes, like what we were saying before, sometimes the homebrews can break something. I think that, the at least Wizards of the Coast kind of thought this through for the most part. I say that with a straight face. Like for instance, meta magic. I know some people will homebrew and say your bonus action can be a regular spell instead of just a cantrip. And I can see why they did that. That could be like ridiculous. 2 fireballs in a row. That would be psychotic. So I can understand that as being a hard and fast rule. But some DMs are like, nah, go ahead, meta magic, do 2 spells. Let's go. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you really want to do that. Are you
But I guess
thinking
it's the
that
thing where
through?
like,
Or
yeah,
Or imagine.
yeah, polymorph.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, polymorph. That would be
Polymorph,
insane
that'd be
too.
amazing. But I guess it's the thing too, where like you have to, as the DM, you have to know your table, right? You have to know your players. So if that is a homebrew thing that you do, you have to know who your players are and know that maybe someone is going to try and do 2 fire. I said I cast fireball again, or if they're only going to do it once, or polymorph, or whatever it is. Or maybe it's also something that you talk to with your
Mhm.
players off the table, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do as a homebrew. Let's not take advantage of this.
the smartest thing a DM can do is say, we can do that homebrew. Um, like if you want to be able to cast a spell that's a leveled spell as a bonus action, sure. The enemies can do it too, though. And that
Yeah.
like brings everyone back down to this is so cool to
Did I say
oh
did I say I
I
wanted
don't
to
know
do
Yeah.
why I want that to happen
No,
to
I
me.
changed my mind.
Yeah.
Gets silly really fast.
Oh yeah. I can create as many enemies as I want. You have one player.
That is
Oh
terrifying, and that is
wow.
why everyone is forever afraid of the DM in real life. Guys can do whatever you want behind those screens.
Imagine or the bag. Oh, I forgot the name of it all of a sudden. The one where you can pull the little furry things out and turn into different animals.
Yep. I don't know what
I,
it
I
is, but
I can't remember the name all of a sudden off the top of my head. But imagine being able to like
Aw. Jonathan, J-
throwing it.
T-Rex,
John, all you
T-Rex.
you said that, and all I could think of was like the Star Trek with the little like furry things. Yeah,
Oh, yep.
tribbles. That's
Tribbles.
all I could think of was like pulling
Tribbles.
tribbles out of a bag and just like they're just and
They're
they start like
just coming out, just
getting
flying
more and more.
bears.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would get crazy fast. Especially I had seen I think it may have been I want to say D&D shorts where he talked about how using like the little minion thing to create another minion to create another minion. You could have like potentially an entire army with you. There's a lot of ways to break the game, but I could see how
Yeah.
yeah, and and like I said, I think a lot of going back to the same idea that they kind of thought it through for the most part, and I could see why they said these rules are like this because I'm sure there was somebody on the table when they were putting stuff together saying, let's do this, and then they realize this is a really bad idea. We just blew the whole campaign in this one turn.
Well, John, I was going to say, like, for the
So
two of you who have DM'd, homebrew rules, is that something like, obviously your campaign is homebrew because it's something that you're writing, the two of you, but when you're in the moment for that session, do you think someone rolls and they want to do something on your table and you're like, oh, I'll homebrew that? Or is it like a little preparation that goes into it before the session as you're setting up your campaign or the session that night and you're like, I have a couple of things that I want to homebrew, a few rules that I want to homebrew?
I mean, for me, homebrewing the rules has to be done before
Okay.
we start playing. I want my players to know which rules that we've created that are, extensions to the rules as written, so that everyone's prepared for it at all times. And I think John mentioned this before. Most of the homebrew
Mhm.
rules everyone uses, and so they're not surprising to any player when they sit down on a table, like, oh, you do that as well? Great. Or they're like, oh, you do that? My last campaign we didn't, but I understand why someone's going to use it. I would never want to personally, surprise someone with a homebrewed rule. I understand like there might be one-off situations where like you create a level 12 character that the spell no one's seen before and you're like, well, I changed this
Mhm.
spell slightly. That might come into play, but for the most part, I want the rules to be widely known and anticipated before ever, coming
Yeah.
across the rule.
I think that's that whole session zero thing. That's the time when you should say, "Hey, listen, this is the campaign. We've done a lot of home brewing, and oh, by the way, here are some of the rules that we may come up against during play." And but if there is something, I think at the moment, I think it goes back to the whole rule of cool thing, where you might say, "All right, let's throw this out the window for this point time," or say, "No, we're going to stick with it rigid." I got it. Yeah, I would say heat of the moment might actually lend yourself to say, "Well, we're just going to bend it right now." But again, it's you'd have to be in the moment. I don't know if I could say it like this is definitely how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, speaking of homebrew and homebrew rules, let's get down to the brass tacks, shall we? Let's let's talk about
Okay.
some specific homebrew rules that we either love or we hate. We're each gonna take a few rules and spill the beans. Tell the cheese bags that are watching how we feel about them. Jonathan, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. That's no problem. The first homebrew rule that I was thinking about is called shots. So, D&D works this way. You have an armor class, and to be able to hit someone, you have to either meet that number or exceed the number of their armor class. And all it does it means is that you hit the target. And a lot of times in play, a player will say, like, I want to hit their hand. And so it's a called shot, which isn't not a thing in D&D. It's just meeting that armor class. That's all you need to do to hit them. But the person wants to do a specific thing because maybe they want to like knock an item out of their hand or slow their movement down or some type of
Specific, yeah.
other thing that they're trying to do. I'm not a fan of called shots, just to be like completely honest. I personally don't like it. But it is a homebrew rule. And there'll be DMs that say, sure, you can call your shot. So I want to attempt to hit him in his right hand where he's wielding the sword. And so DMs will do things like raise the AC. So let's say his AC is 17. They might tack 5 AC on to say you have to hit 22 to now knock the thing out of his to hit him in the hand. I'm not a fan. That's I like hitting the AC and that is all you need to do. And my reasoning behind it is there are a million ways in D&D to do very specific things. So there are rules and spells and maneuvers and builds that allow you to get to those things. So I've seen players build a character, and the character is very good at the thing that they do. And then they want to do this called shot idea. And it's like, well, you didn't build a character that can disarm enemies. You didn't build the right thing. If it's once in a great while, like, one fight, you're like, oh crap, we need to get that orb and we need to somehow get it away from him. I can see using it. But I feel like it breaks the game when you build a build and then try to
Mhm.
do a homebrew rule to get around not building your character correctly. Because I've seen a lot of people build a character specifically for a reason, and they love the reason they build their character, and then try to change the character by adding some homebrew rules in so that their character can do more. There are fighters that can disarm enemies. There are spells that will take things away from people. So I'm not a fan of
So
called
keep your
shots,
called
like I
shots when you
said.
play pool and build your characters correctly.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Build your character
noted.
correctly.
I think I've used it once actually the campaign we were together with Jonathan. Remember when we were trying to incapacitate the spellcaster, the wizard, and I said I want to cut his throat, not to kill him, just to disable him from talking so he could not
Talking.
say anything, so he couldn't talk anymore. And our DM actually let me do that. And of course the wizard went and he did his thing anyway. So we didn't get a chance to restrain him. We actually lost the rolls on that. Did very poorly, if I remember correctly, and we couldn't restrain him. We failed horribly against the wizard. uh, but he let me do it. He let me we'll say incapacitate his
So
throat.
John, what are
There are spellcasters that can get it so that you have a cone of silence, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. That is true.
you build your
Or
character.
anti magic field. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's like in very specific ways,
Mhm.
very, very small times you wanted to use something specifically. I have no problem with that. It's if every fight you go in
Yeah.
and you try to
and
do
Mhm.
that?
that
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, there are some games that have that built into it. They'll have another die that has specific body parts on it so that you can roll with it and say like leg, arm, hand, head, and so or torso so that you know where you've hit. And those can get really crazy. And we won't even talk about GURPS and how that works because that's a whole 2-hour conversation just to explain how to hit somebody. But it can get very detailed on where you hit the person. So I can see for D&D, like you said, it's made for flow. Combat should be quick and
And it's already
and like
slow.
yeah,
Combat's slow.
yeah, it's already slow.
It is.
It's and not until you play GURPS, man. That's
Yeah,
slow
combat is slow. I
playing.
mean, Jonathan, you and I don't know John, but Jonathan, you and I have played Alex, who our DM is for our current campaign. He has a game where you do roll a dice to see where you've hit someone, right? Like right arm, right leg, left leg. It's in an old Western town, so you're not necessarily calling shots, but it's based on the roll of the die. That's perfect, I think, for that setting because it's exactly what you would have done in the Wild Wild West, right? You're aiming for someone on the top of that building, their right arm. You roll the dice. Yep, you get it. No, you don't. But for D&D, I have to agree. I'm not a fan of calling shots. So John, what are your yeah.
Win.
What's the name of this game? I win. John, what
Exactly.
are your homebrew rules? Love, hate.
One I know it's a very
We want
I
it to
almost
be
said
conversational
conversational instead of
for the podcast.
Controversial?
it's also yes, controversial. Sorry. But the GM rolling your death saves instead of you doing it yourself behind the screen. And I know like a lot of people like, no. And I'm kind of on the fence about it personally because I think that it can really ramp up the tension, especially if you're trying to go for something more grittier in your setting and you're sitting there and you don't know what's going to happen to you. and the DM's behind the screen throwing whatever, and you're not seeing it. I think it could really just have that a little more of a dread and effect on your players, and a little more of like, okay, combat is real. I don't know if I'm going to die, and I have no way of knowing, and it's not going to be down to, my roll of the dice. It's, it's in the hands of the DM and the RNG gods. And like I said, it's controversial, but I think if it's used in that kind of a setting or that kind of a game, I think that would be a great way to really ramp up tension and make it much more exciting, I think, for the players. But like I said, I'm kind of on the fence about it, but I could see its
I
uses.
think you really have to trust your DM, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't fudge something like that. I would just be like, sorry, that's 3 1s in a row.
You only need
You are
two.
quite dead.
You only need
That's
two
true.
ones.
Only two. It's 2 1s in a row. I'm sorry, you are quite dead. And guess what? There's no diamonds in this setting.
So I would say this. I disagree wholeheartedly with that one. And the reason behind that is those are the three probably most stressful roles of a game, of a campaign. And if the player agency is taken away from me, because I want to be like, I died because I rolled those dice, not because someone else rolled those dice. I
Mhm.
have seen where the DM and the player, so the player rolls with the DM looking, and none of the other players will know.
Okay.
I'm okay with that because it allows me to hold my fate in my roles.
Mhm.
And then, it's between the player and the DM to keep their poker faces going so that the rest of the table doesn't know what's going on. I love that idea. Because then you are ratcheting it up. You're ratcheting up the
Mhm.
tension for the rest of the table. Because,
Mhm.
my first roll, you don't know if I
Yeah.
passed or failed. So do you now have to go, hey, do we have a healer? Is that person getting this person up?
Yeah.
Are we still fighting the fight? We don't have a healer. Do I have to go grab a potion? Do I have to leave combat and get an opportunity attack to try to make
Mhm.
sure that this person doesn't go down?
Yeah.
Love that tension. But
Mhm.
taking the role out of the player's hand is where I feel personally I would be like, if I die, and I would say my DM killed me,
Yeah,
not
I
I killed
agree.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm on the
Yeah,
fence
John,
on that one.
it is.
I just
I
think
think
it's
it is.
controversial.
It's also conversational. Uh,
Mm.
sound
Sound
off in
off
the
in the
comments.
comments.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
tell us, tell
No,
us.
I mean, Jonathan, I agree with you that I don't want my DM to make the decision if my character lives or dies. I mean, unless there are instances, and this is going back with again, talking to your DM off, off the table. But I know our current DM for our campaign has asked what our feelings are for our characters if we are in that situation, if your character dies. So I guess that's something too. If your DM is maybe really hard set on that being their rule, that they roll that for you, I think it might be important to have that conversation with your players. Obviously, go back to session 0 and discuss all this, but to see like, hey, how do you feel about your character dying? Like, are you
How permanent
no,
is
right? Because
death in
some
this
people,
game?
I love the character that I created for our current campaign. As a person who created this character, would be devastated if Philomena died. But some people might be like, meh, it's fine. I'll just create another one. And then maybe in that situation, if your DM rolls and you're dead, it's fine. Just you have another character sheet ready to go.
That would be one of those campaigns in session 0. The DM's like, okay, I'm going to need you to come with at least 5 player character sheets when we start. Just
Why?
saying,
Don't
it
ask
might be
questions.
good.
Just 5 sheets.
Don't ask. Yeah, don't ask. How's
Did
your
you
dice
charge
feeling
them?
today?
You're rolling those
Yeah,
1985 dice. They
exactly.
get lots of D20s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
so I chose
Oh, the
nat 20 on a skill check and nat 20 on an attack roll or spell casting in combat. So Nat 20 on a skill check, there are no rules for critical successes or failures on skill checks. Nat 20 on a skill check does not automatically succeed. I could read the official rule out of the book, but I like homebrew rules where you auto success if you roll a nat 20. If I'm trying to do something, I roll that nat 20. I want to be successful. I feel like it would be very defeating if I roll a nat 20 and I don't succeed in whatever I'm trying to do. And that's just me personally. If I roll a d20, that's such because you don't get a lot of them unless you are rolling with 1985 dice. You don't usually get a lot of them. So when you get it, it's such a awesome moment for the whole table, and everyone is just like you're feeling that energy, and everyone's so excited for you that you got the nat 20, and you should be successful in what you're trying to do. And if you're not, I just think that really sucks.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, I was gonna say I agree up to a point. I know, like specifically, you're right. There's
modifiers, yeah.
nothing that says because yeah, and actually, Jonathan and I had a conversation about this before as well as about the skill rolling a nat 20 on a skill check, and I think there should be like for instance, if you roll the nat 20 in the bar, it doesn't mean the barmaid's going to go off with you upstairs just because you rolled a natural 20.
Is like,
no, that's not how it works.
That's
It's like, yeah, it's like absolutely. It's like, dude, she's not into you. She's not into you. And if you roll a natural 20, she might be like, oh, you're kind of, yeah, you're kind of cute. You're kind of cute, but
that in real
I don't think so. Not today. So you're rolling a nat 20 on charisma. But I think if it's or like for instance walking up to the king and rolling a 20 on persuasion and saying give me your kingdom, yeah, I think the nat 20 should really push it into your favor.
Yeah.
Like it should be taken account of. But as an automatic, this happens. I think it's going to be like a case by case. For personally, that's how I would do it. It's like a case by case thing because it's like you said. There's nothing that says a nat 20 means on a skill check that it's boom you get it. Because you can also do like with your modifiers and things. You can get way over 20. You can get over 30. I mean, in some cases, especially with items and that not. So in that case, then what is it then? Because you could literally set a DC of 30 and a player could hit that. It's possible. So, I think it's case by case. For me personally, that's how I would handle it.
I agree with John. But I have it very conditionally. My condition is if it's a charisma based skill, then it's not an auto success. If you're trying to pick a lock and you get a natural 20, you pick the lock, even if you're not proficient. Like what's the saying? Like a blind squirrel, even a blind squirrel finds a nut or whatever that saying is. And it's like, yeah, like Dex, I can see a Dex based skill where we call it getting lucky. You just got lucky. But charisma based checks, I feel like, is where people really push the limit of natural 20s because it is the can I charm, can I persuade, can I deceive my way out of something? And sometimes you can't. Even with because there are players that like let's say I have that natural 20, but I have a -2 to my
17.
my deception. So when I really rolled an 18, and the skill check might have been 19. So there are situations, and I think for me, it's very situational and charisma-based skills. Those are the ones I'm not going to automatically let you succeed. But like John said, it might be the thing where they don't kill you. They find you funny. Oh, can I have your kingdom? And the king laughs and he slaps you on the shoulder and he's like,
They didn't take offense to it.
That.
Right. They're not offended by it. It's not going
Yeah.
to impact you negatively. So maybe the DM allows it. Right.
So but most of the time, I will say a nat 20 is an auto success.
That makes sense. My other one was nat 20 on attack roll or spell casting in combat. We have a clip from our campaign where I rolled a nat 20 and I got one away from 69. And That was a lot of damage. A lot of damage.
Yeah.
And the official rule is the defined critical success is a critical hit during an attack roll, which occurs on a natural 20. This means you roll the attack's damage dice twice and then add your normal modifiers. So homebrew rule, max damage on a dice, D8, automatically 8. If it's D6, automatically 6. Then you roll your second set. That's how I got that classic 68 and did all of that damage. So I like that homebrew rule.
Yeah, I love that one too because, like you said, rules as written, you could literally roll 2 ones for your damage.
Yep.
So how is that a critical hit? It's like, wow, you critically poke them twice. Oh yeah, you really poked them. No, I love that. That's one I think universally you'll see people
It's
like,
so
yeah,
exciting when
that's
it
how we're
happens.
doing it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like the table will blow up. I love when the table blows up. It's
Yeah.
like 20, it gets everybody hyped up, and so it should feel like a real success and a big thing that just happened. Because I mean, it's statistically, it's not very key. It's not that easy to
It
get.
feels really good for the table, especially if you're in combat. You're so stressed out sometimes. Like this feels like real life. Like, oh my God, guys, like what are we doing? Like there's so much pressure. And then you get that D20 and it's like huge weight is lifted off your shoulders and everyone is just so excited and just rejoices with you over this huge, like, there's a lot of damage that you've done to whoever the big bad is that you're fighting.
100% agree with both of you guys. It's deflating to critically
Mhm.
succeed and then roll 2 ones or however. And like, I mean, let's talk like the possibility is you could have like a fireball. Or not a
Mhm.
fireball, because that's a deck save. You could
Yeah.
do a sneak attack and have, 6d6s because you're like level 9 or 10 and roll all ones. And it would just be
Mhm.
like,
Oh,
this
man.
was absolutely useless of a
Mhm.
roll. So having max damage immediately it just sounds like it should be the actual rule, and I don't know why it's not the actual rule. I think Wizards of the Coast could have fixed that in the 2024 rules. I hope they did. I don't
You
remember if they
haven't
did or
read
not.
the whole that front.
Got it personally.
You know,
I
I
skimmed
read a
the book.
lot. I read a lot.
I skimmed it. I didn't read it. One thing too is I can understand the only reasoning I could think is that because imagine as the DM it's like you only wrote like maybe this thing only had 50 hit points and your character does 60 points of damage in one hit. You're like, uh yeah, he suddenly now has 100 hit
Oh
points.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about how the campaign where my two girls like did so much stinking damage in their first term. Like, you got through his armor. Congratulations. Now you can start working on his health.
And they're like,
'Cause he just
armor has health in
decimated it.
D&D 5e? And you're like,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
does
yeah, yeah,
today.
yeah.
Does
Well,
today.
it was a construct, so I said it had armor
Janky
plating on the outside.
DMs are
Well, I mean, come
shady.
on. I was like, I did not expect them
Yeah.
to do this massive amount of damage in one turn.
I mean,
Like,
Did they crit on you or did they just roll well?
one did.
Okay.
That was the reason, and she's a rogue, so she sneak attacked it.
I mean,
oh,
rogues
I
are
love my
dangerous.
rogue character. There's lots of dice I get to roll with her.
Uh, and the other one's warlock, so that huge casting damage.
They do nerf rogues because I mean your sneak attack damage is only on one attack, even
Hmm.
in a turn. So even if he could
Hmm.
attack twice based on like multi-classing, the sneak attack damage only goes through once. So I mean
Yeah,
it balances out every once in a while.
yeah,
And also here's the thing: like the homebrew rule goes both sides, right? So if I'm the
yeah.
DM
Hmm.
and I crit,
No.
guess what?
So that's a question. Should the
I think
DM be able to also apply this homebrew rule?
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair balance because like we were
Absolutely.
talking about the meta magic thing before. If you say, yeah, if you guys want to do it, then I get to do it too. I mean, it just keeps it even.
We're always secretly plotting against the dungeon master.
I don't know why. As a DM, I'm having the least amount of fun.
That's how it should
I'm
be.
getting murdered all the time.
That's
People
how it
are
should be.
plotting
The
against me all
game,
the time.
the game
Even
is
when I'm
about
playing the
us.
NPC to help you,
You
you
kill the
not try to
NPC and you
help me
ask
help you.
questions later. The game is about us.
No, so that for me right there, that's my joy. Is I want the people on the table to be having the fun, to have the power trip, and to feel like the demigods they're supposed to be. That's the point of
You want all
D&D.
the power.
At least want my NPC that's like, hey guys, I want to be your friend. To not be like, ugh, get out of here. No one likes you. I'm like, but I just wanted to have one
Oh,
conversation where I'm not like telling you I am a murder hobo like you guys,
And of
which you
course,
guys all
there's
are.
always
All murder
yeah.
hobos.
And of course, they end up adopting what, like Bob the Goblin out of nowhere for
Right.
no reason, and now you
Bob the
have to do
Goblin,
that character
yeah, that
all
you
the time.
hate. It's the worst voice. It hurts your throat, and they're like, "Oh
Yep,
my God,
yep.
let's get this guy. He's our new best friend."
have we done that to you with Novamir?
You never know.
Okay, all
No,
right.
No.
you guys
That's
don't like
not
any of my
true.
NPCs, so it's fine.
That's not true.
Even
Yeah, I
Brie,
Remy,
mistake.
who's the nicest
I
girl
love
ever. You
Remy.
guys take such advantage of her.
I
I don't
I
think
made that
Genevieve's such a bad
mistake.
Genevieve
girl.
doesn't like anyone, so it's
Genevieve's
not
nice.
nothing personal against your NPC. Genevieve doesn't like anyone, including the people that are in Blades and Banknotes. She could just walk away tomorrow.
I think she had a begrudging was. I think she had a bit of a begrudgingly
Yeah,
respect for Vorin because she really liked your
that's
boots.
right. Boren hooked me up, got me
Yeah, he
that
loved
business
your
card, and the
boots.
business card got like tossed in the air, I think, mid-combat. Genevieve got a nice pair of
Yep,
boots. Yeah,
yep.
she's mine for it. Although I think she called him pathetic or don't be pathetic or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually made that mistake too. I had made a NPC because they didn't have a healer, and so I made one just to kind of just follow them along as like help, like just to heal them. They fell in love with the character, and I killed her off, and they were very upset.
That's the beauty of being a
But
DM, right? You are the dungeon master, game master, god, whatever you are called.
yeah, I had to bring her back in a weird way. It
So,
works.
so dudes, anything else for the good of the order on homebrew rules, love, hates, anything?
Done.
Oh, I know. My second one that I was thinking about is XP for players that
That's a good
missed
one.
sessions. So, I mean, the rules are they're not that like they're like in stone, but they say that the DM awards XP through combat, completing missions, and like interaction. So if you are not there, then you can't receive the XP.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. I would homebrew that if you miss one session and that is the session that I hand out XP, I'm usually handing out XP for like rolling XP. You guys
Mm.
talked to someone 2 weeks ago that started this whole adventure. You did a bunch of things that led up to it, and eventually there was like a bigger uh, encounter in which you guys had to fight. And maybe at the end of the encounter, I say, hey, everyone's leveling. So I would rather keep all of my players at the same level than, I missed 2 sessions and now I'm level 7, everyone else is level 8. I think that doesn't help
Mhm.
morale, especially if like it's out of that player's control. Like, hey, on my way there, my wife had a baby. It's like, well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna punish
Yeah.
you for having a baby. So that's one that I feel like, as a homebrew rule, I will bring everyone levels together. Everyone is because you're
Mhm.
you're a group, you're an adventuring group, and I want to keep you all the same. And then even if you have a player that does, die, I would never want to bring a player into the group that's not at the level of everyone else, because you're trying to play catch up,
Yeah, how do you ever
and
catch up from that?
then you're a weak link. You
Yeah.
hope somebody else misses a session. Yeah. So that's my second one, which would be um if you miss a session, I will let everyone get XP
I like it.
altogether.
I appreciate it.
I think milestone leveling kind of throws that out the window, which is I kind of lean towards that because I feel like it's very easy to keep everybody the same because you can tell, hey, well, last session they beat so and so, so everybody's level 7 now. So make sure next session you're good to go at level 7. My other one was this is something that uh I kind of like personally is injuries. Injuries will stay with the player character and cause a temporary condition, and that takes time to resolve. So it wouldn't be permanent because you can get healed. So, like, unless like a really high level healer or divine intervention or something comes into play, that injury would hobble the player in some way for X amount of sessions that the DM can come up with. So, for instance, let's say you got your arm cut off. Like, yeah, you can get it magically back. But in the meantime, that arm may be weak for the next 2 sessions because it's a new arm. You're not used to it. It's not strong yet, something along those lines. And a little bonus thing to that too is having some permanent scarring to give your character some extra flavor. That doesn't go away. I know specifically in one in Ox Venture, D&D live play group that I really like. Uh, in one of the very early episodes from the first season, the druid got hit over her eye, and at that point on, anytime they drew her character, she always had a scar, like right here. And I was like, that's such a tiny little detail, but I love it. I fell in love with that. And then I found out that other people like that injury idea. And I think this adds to that flavor and a little bit of realism for you so that there's a bit of a consequence to being careless in battle. That, yeah, you can do it. You could also throw in here like maybe an exhaustion level, depending on the severity of the injury as well, that they have to sleep off. So, I mean, that's just another little one that I personally, that's one I really like. I would love to include that going forward in anything else I do.
I'll,
Your
I was
thoughts,
gonna say
Charlie?
I'll allow it. I was
I'm
gonna say
going sour now.
I'll allow it.
Oh, good.
No, I
Mhm.
I agree that like
Mhm.
again, theater of the mind
Mhm.
and imagination, like anything that
Yeah.
creates
Mm.
a more realistic, although it's still all fantasy, a more realistic aspect to the game. Like, you're in combat when in like, real life, although again this is fantasy, would you go into combat and walk out and just, your hair's perfect and you don't have blood on you and your clothes are completely, pristine and your shirt is still nice and crisp? Like that just doesn't happen. And maybe because it is fantasy, maybe that does happen and occur in your world, and that's fine. But I also I like that you could walk away with a scar. If that's something that you don't mind to happen for your player that is now permanent, a permanent part of your person. I think that's a cool thing that you could do. So part of your character's story, you go into the next bar and you're out of combat and you sit down and now you have this gash on your face and you have a really cool story to tell the bar wench. Like I could see that being an enjoyable aspect of the storyline.
I think it's, player, it would have to be player
Hmm.
DM understanding. Personally, myself, I don't ever want to have any scars or bruises on any of my players. I want them to look pristine and beautiful every morning that they get up. So I don't love it, but that's just for me. Like I could completely understand somebody being like, "Oh, that's super cool that I'm missing a finger. I look like Frodo." Um,
Oh, you
one of my current
have a
players
lot of hands
specifically,
missing in that campaign.
I'm, I'm very, it's a very vain character. and it weighs on me when I go to bed at night that in real life, that I don't have that hand back for that character. So it's probably why I have like so many gray hairs. Um, so I'm not a fan, but I can understand that somebody might love it. And if you
Mm,
love it, go all the
I mean,
more
I would
power
kind of
to
like
you.
that for my rogue character.
Lingering,
Absolutely.
yeah.
yeah, lingering
Mm,
effects. I think there are spells that have lingering effects. It'll be like, you have exhaustion for 1d8 hours or
yeah.
1d3 days
Mm,
or whatever the case might be.
mm,
So like that's built into the game sometimes already. So that like
mm.
completely is okay with me. I know like I think bringing people back from the dead, I think you have like levels of exhaustion from even Revivify. Like if your player dies, and they get brought back, I think there is like you have negative modifiers for a certain number of days. So that's fine. I don't mind that at all. But I still want them every time they go to sleep that next morning to be the beautiful person I dreamt them up no matter what I put them through. They can get hit by a boulder.
And every morning,
And
every morning
that
they wake
next
up as a
morning,
90s
they look
supermodel. Like
pristine.
just like ready to walk that runway and their hair
Exactly.
not a hair is out of place.
It's like, dude, you lost half your face last session. It looks gorgeous
You look
today.
Nothing,
You
great.
yeah, nothing
did you get a
alone,
facial?
Yeah.
makeup can't fix.
8 hours of rest fixes
Beauty
everything.
rest.
Did
He puts on
everything?
that mask and
Oh wow.
she's ready to go the next day.
Very vain.
Go
Yeah. Yeah,
out.
exactly. All right. Any other hates, loves, hates, rules, homebrew?
There's hundreds of
I know we could
homebrews
talk
out
about
there.
this forever.
I would say,
Yeah,
like sound off
I
and
actually had a long list in for preparation. Then he's like, you can only have two.
Two?
I mean, we would be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same for part two. We would be here for the rest of our lives if we're talking about
Oh yeah.
everyone. I think this is what we should do is
Yeah.
sound off in the comments and we will talk about the ones people pick in the
Oh, that's a good
next
idea. Yeah,
show of this when
absolutely.
we pick this up.
Absolutely.
Oh, I
Sound
would
off.
love that.
I mean,
Yeah.
Zach always looks at the camera and says sound off in the comments, but absolutely sound off in the comments, cheese bags. And let us know. Tell us what your favorite homebrew rules are, what you love, what you hate about it, what your DM cooks up that maybe you love or hate. And we'll pick a few and use them in our next episode of the Parking Lot podcast. And we'll bring John back too. People don't get to see his face enough. He's
No
exactly
longer the
your
man behind the
Oz.
curtain.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Parking Lot Podcast. Thank you so much, John and Jonathan, for being here today to
You.
talk to us. Don't forget to head over to our friends at eldridge-foundry.com. Use our cheat code cheesebags15. Jonathan has some in the back there behind him. They are full color, full glam, like Jonathan's cleric, Ren Barclay. And they also have some bustier versions that you can now pick up online too. Bust as in head, not, just for a little clarification. But head over to eldridge-foundry.com today. Use our cheat code cheesebags15 to save 15% off your next order. They are shipped in full color, designed by you, ready to use in your next campaign. So thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to click that subscribe button, click the notify button so that you can be the first to know when another episode of the Parking Lot Podcast drops here on our YouTube channel. And until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags. See you on the next episode of the Parking Lot. Bye.